Welcome back, everyone. Today we're talking Labubu. Your first question might be, what is a Labubu? So let me enlighten you. A Labubu, first of all, is a girl. It's an elfin character first created by Hong Kong-born artist Ka-Sing Lung, and it was conceived as part of a story series called The Monsters in 2015, so it's 10 years old. And then in 2019, Labubu partnered with a Chinese retailer called Pop Mart. And then and Ellie wants to be in this video, you can see her little nose. In 2023, in late 2023, October to be exact, they came out with their key ring series. And that series was called The Exciting Macaron, which I just absolutely love because it's an exciting little cookie. But the point is that was kind of the beginning of the bag charm craze. Now, I would argue it's really been the last year that it's been huge, but I think that's in the United States. I think in Asia, I think it was already popular and it's kind of moved into the United States, which happens, something will start in Asia and move over to here in the US or vice versa. But I don't know if that was a coincidence. I don't know if that was happenstance or Pop Mart and, Labubu realized that the bag charm craze was starting. I don't know. But either way, those two things coming together, the key rings and the bag charm interest, it really was a amalgamation of things, right, that happened all at once. And so Labubu, as you can see by the picture, it's kind of a mischievous, terrifying looking little doll. And the thing about Labubu that a lot of people will mention is that it's an ugly cute doll. And if you're not familiar with the ugly cute phrase, what that really refers to, I think, is something that's happened, again, more recently, is this idea that it's so ugly, it's cute. And you see that with like the world's ugliest dog or Britain's ugliest dog or the US's ugliest dog contests. The dog is so ugly that it's cute. That idea, those reversing of, thoughts, in other words, ugly and cute are obviously opposite, but that something is so different than anything else, something that is so outside the norm that you find it appealing. Maybe you feel a little even sorry for it. So that's part of the Labubu's charm, I think. So I wanted to do this video because I do, and if you're not aware, this background is my office, and this is where I talk about like the business of beauty, the business of fashion, trends, that type of thing that affect the beauty and fashion industry. And I usually do like my beauty reviews and talk about, color story and that type of stuff from my beauty studio. But Labubu is a phenomenon that I think is important to touch on and also interesting and fun because we have seen this before, but not really in fashion. So let me explain what I mean. If you're familiar and you've been around for a while, you know about the Beanie Baby craze, you know about the Cabbage Patch craze, you know about Pokemon cards, and there's been many, many others. And I feel like we often go through these, trends, these crazes where people collect things and it starts as a children's toy and then adults start to collect it as well. And Beanie Babies was a amazing example of that. I had Beanie Babies. And, the idea about a Beanie Baby, right, there was a couple of pieces, which we'll go into in a minute about why Labubus maybe are Labubus. But it started as a kid's toy and then adults started collecting them. The prices went up. Barbies are like that too. But the thing is, that wasn't fashion, right? That was collectibles, absolutely. And there's so many different types of collectibles. You can collect anything. But it wasn't part of fashion. Now, in fashion, there's trends. Absolutely. There's, shoes that trend. There's bags that trend. There's makeup that trends. I talk about those things all the time. But the combination of a collectible, a children's toy, like a Beanie Baby, and fashion, I don't really think has happened like this anyway that I can recall. Obviously, there have been things like jewelry and, hats and shoes and bags that are accessories that you wouldn't necessarily consider the core of your wardrobe, of your fashion, but it's not a toy. This Labubu is literally a toy. It started off as a figurine, right? It's a little plushie. And it serves no purpose other than being cute. Fashion, although you can say it's, extra and unnecessary and all those things, which are probably true, we do need clothing. You don't need luxury clothing, but you need clothing. You oftentimes need shoes. You need a hat because it's hot out. Now, the earrings and the jewelry and all of that, the adornments, the beauty and the makeup. True, you don't need them, but they have become, I think, relative staples in many societies. If and I am not in any way an archaeologist or a historian, but there were lots of communities that did adornments, whether it was paint on their faces or what we would call makeup or jewelry or some type of thing to, make yourself tattoos more to individualize. So that's not new. But again, the combination of a toy that serves no purpose and fashion, I think this is really the first instance of this particular type of phenomenon. So I wanted to sort of document it. So why the Labubu? Why do I think this is happening? Now, there's been a lot of articles. I think the New York Times did an article. I think Vogue did an article. So this is not, new. I don't think I'm adding anything to the discussion really, but I'm just giving you my thoughts because again, I thought it was interesting and I think it's entertaining, but I also think there is something to glean here about how we shop and why we shop and what might come next. So first is the adornment, the individual kind of expression that I talked about with jewelry and makeup that we've done, that pretty much every human being has done from the beginning of time, it seems. You can take a Labubu and hang it on your purse. And even if your purse is a purse that every single other person has in your community, let's say it's a ubiquitous purse, everybody has it. They're probably not going to have your purse in the color that you have it and the Labubu you have, right? So it makes you more unique, makes you more of an individual. It expresses your personality, your creativity. And I think there's 100 or over 100 different types of Labubus. There's other characters in the Monsters universe, by the way, but the Labubu is the one that's the main character, this little girl. I also, think that the fact that it is a girl, although its appearance to me seems pretty gender fluid, does appeal to fashionistas everywhere. Now, you can be any type of fashionista, but I'm just saying predominantly in fashion, it has been focused on women and little girls. So I think that does have something to do with it. But so this is this expressionism that you can have so many different types of Labubus to express how you feel. There's different colors, there's different expressions, and now there are different outfits for your Labubu. Like Barbie back in the day, and I'm sure still is true, you can get custom outfits for your Labubu. In fact, you can get Hermes, Dior, designs. I don't think they're actually from Hermes or Dior, but Chanel or whatever it is, and dress your Labubu up in your favorite brand. So you can have your Hermes Birkin with your Labubu in a little Hermes outfit. I think it's cute. I'm not being dismissive about it. I think it's a huge trend, obviously. And now, if you look, bag charms have been around for, actually they've been around for forever, but you start to see some of the brands imitating the idea of Labubu. Now, there's also actual ripoffs of Labubu called La Fluflus, I think, which basically look exactly like the Labubu, but aren't. I'm talking about the brands like Louis Vuitton and Prada that have bag charms that are characters. Now, Prada's had it for a while. It's a bear. It's a really cute bear. I've wanted this bear for a while, but it's an $800 bag charm, which serves no purpose. Now, I will tell you, if I was making what I used to make, I probably would buy it, but I was also a lot more stressed out then and I needed more levity, which I'll get to as part of this buying experience. And Louis Vuitton has one now that they actually emailed me about and told me that I could get early access to these bag charms, and they're adorable. There's ones for the women's collection and the men's collection. Men's collection are bears. The women's collection are these little flower people, something. And I love them. I love the little flower people, but they're $1,500. So, no. But the point is, there's a way to express yourself. It's obviously a phenomenon, and other brands will start jumping on this as well. Not just bag charms, but little character bag charms that all have different individual personalities. Just like the Beanie Babies, just like the Cabbage Patch Kids, like the Care Bears. Second of all, it's the price point. Originally, a retail for a Labubu is $28 in the United States. I'm not involved in this whole Labubu buying thing, so I don't know how much they're going for, but I do know that you can spend quite a bit of money on a particular type of Labubu. There's some that are more rare than others, different ones cost more, and once it's on the secondary market, it's whatever people are willing to pay for it. And if you have any recollection or you've heard about the Beanie Babies of, the 90s, there was a bear that was the Princess Diana bear. It was a royal purple bear that was named after Princess Diana. And that bear could go for like thousands of dollars. And it's a little plushy. I mean, it was adorable, but so it's for what the market will bear for the item. So the price point was a big part of this because you can't buy a Hermes bag, but you can buy a little Labubu for $30 and put a little Hermes outfit on it for $20. That's the idea, right? So I totally get that. And then third, there's this interesting aspect to the Labubu that I think other brands have done, but not in the toy area. But again, this particular character is actually far surpassed the toy moniker. It's the fact that the items often are blind items. So when you buy a box that has a Labubu in it, you don't know what's in it. It's a Labubu, but you don't know what kind. So there's a surprise element. There's a I don't know what I'm going to get element, which, a lot of people like. Like you see them in the holiday bags where they have these bags that you can buy, beauty bags that you can buy, and you don't know what's going to be in them. It's a surprise. So, each bag is $100 and you don't know if you're going to get $1,000 worth or $500 worth, and you don't know if you're going to like it, if you're not going to like it. But a lot of people do love that idea of getting something that's a blind buy that you are going to be surprised, because I think the psychology leads back to when you were a kid and you didn't really know everything that was going to happen next. And there's some joy to being surprised and being like excited about what the surprise might be. I have never been one that loves that, to be honest. I like to plan things. I get joy out of knowing what's coming next. And I don't do the blind buys. Like that's just not something that I do. I don't really like those surprise beauty bags. Like that's not my thing. But I understand the reason for it. I get it. So I think that's a big part of it. And it's interesting marketing by Pop Mart and Labubu. I don't know who came up with it, but I do think that's a very interesting element. And then, of course, there's the celebrity endorsement part of this, like the fact that Rhiannon and Dua Lipa and Lisa from Blackpink, like all that. Yeah, of course. That, I remember when I was young and certain celebrities that I looked up to had particular bags or particular clothes, and I saw them wearing it and I was like, oh, I want that. That's very normal. So you have the culmination of all of those things. And then you have nostalgia on top of it, which is adults looking back to their childhood, looking back to the Beanie Babies or Cabbage Patch Kids or whatever else that they weren't able to buy. Usually that's it. And now we're like, well, I can get this because now I'm an adult. And I have money and I can pay for it. And again, it leads back to that, monetary issue. They're not that expensive. I mean, even the ones that are on the secondary markets that you're going to spend money on, it's not a Birkin bag. It's not a $50,000 Himalayan crocodile bag. It's not something that, most people will never be able to afford. So all those things coming together, I see how it created this phenomenon. But why is it part of fashion? Like why did this sort of merge together? And I think that's just been happening for a while now. We've started to see fashion and beauty just meld, I think, with everything. You start to see it in sports, like F1 has now become a fashion brand, which is, again, very interesting. I've been to the F1 races and I think they're fun, but I never really thought about it as a fashion statement or, working together with fashion, but that's happened. And I think a lot of people love that fact. Soccer in the US, football everywhere else, has become an integral part of fashion. I think fashion and beauty the brands and the companies have realized that they need to come up with different marketing, use different techniques to get at their consumer. And so that's a big part of it. I think the Labubu trend or phenomenon really wasn't necessarily a deliberate marketing idea. I think it really was just, I don't want to say happenstance, but I do think there was just a culmination of things that have led us here. I don't think Pop Mart, maybe they did. Maybe they realized this was going to become a phenomenon everywhere and all of these things were going to intersect. And then on top of it, we were going to have political uncertainty across the world and that everyone would want something that reminded them of a simpler time. For me, the character has always reminded me of Where the Wild Things Are. And there's the main monster in that book that to me looks exactly like a Labubu. So when I first saw Labubu, that's what I thought it was. And then of course I read about it and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So, I see the appeal of having something that is cute and innocuous and fun and whimsical and nostalgic that also allows you to present a creative fashion statement at the same time, because fashion and beauty has woven itself into every part of daily life, especially here in the United States. I know other parts of the world, but I live in the United States and I can speak to it, that it's really a part of everything. And with social media, and here I am as part of it, that has become, even greater. And when you have young people in Sephora saying that they need their skincare, which they don't, and then you see, adults with Labubus, yeah, there's an absolute meshing of everything. And one of the things that I think is really interesting about this is that the nostalgic inner child feeling that you want something from a simpler time, something that makes you happy, makes you laugh, makes you, feel like it's a whimsical take on your life. I think that is the key to all of this. Like, I really think we have seen lots of these trends. I've talked about it, lots of bags, lots of shoes in the, specifically collectible market, the Beanie Babies, but the combination, I think, has something to do with Labubu's character. In a time where people are stressed, and there's economic uncertainty. We talked about like the lipstick index before. Actually, I did a video in here about that. And the idea that when things get difficult, people will go buy a lipstick because it's relatively inexpensive and you can express yourself. It makes you feel a little better. I've had a terrible day. I'm going to go buy a lipstick. I think that's this. I think that's what Labubu is. But on top of that, the Labubu itself, character, it's a perfect combination of cuteness, mischievousness, and an intent to do good in the world, like the character, but that things kind of go awry. So it's like, yeah, I had good intentions. I'm a good little monster, but then, because I'm mischievous, things ensued. I think we all kind of like that. It's it's your dog who is like got a good intention and runs to you and knocks over your family heirloom vase, and you're mad, but you also can't get too mad because the dog is like the cutest thing ever. And you're like, ugh. That type of feeling. I think that's what you get with this character. And that's what the expression is. It's a puckish, Loki-esque kind of, you don't know what they're going to do next, but they're so adorably ugly cute that you forgive them. I think that really does lean into the feeling that we all have right now that things might go sideways, and you're trying to like keep up, everything is okay. And I'm not talking politics, guys. I'm talking like just the feeling of uncertainty that a lot of the world has. There's a lot of things going on right now. And I think that has a lot to do with, and then all the other things I just mentioned coming together to create this phenomenon. And I don't see this trend going away anytime soon. Like, I see fashion as looking at this as, as a signal to try to make things more nostalgic for adults. And in fact, it has been something that marketers have considered for a very long time. For example, forever ago, when coffee, I'm not going to say the brand, but there was a particular brand who wanted to get coffee sales in Japan. And Japanese just generally didn't drink coffee. And they were trying to figure out how to get the Japanese to drink more coffee. And basically they hired a really good marketing firm. The marketing firm came in and said, well, we have to start with the children. And the brand was like, well, that's going to take forever. It's like, yes, but that's how you do it. You build a wanting, a liking for something as a child, and then that stays with you into your adulthood. And that's when you purchase. So as a child, I was not allowed to have perfume because I was sick all the time when I was a kid. I had all kinds of allergies and immune problems. And so my parents would not let me have any perfume. You have now seen my perfume cabinet as an adult. It doesn't take a great mind to figure out why I feel this need to collect, tremendous amounts of perfume, because I wasn't allowed to have any as a child, and now as an adult, I can have them, and so I did. In Japan, what they did is they made coffee candy, like the little hard candies that the kids grew up on, and because they became so popular and the kids loved them, as adults, they had developed a taste for coffee and then started drinking coffee. That is what we're talking about here. There is a nostalgic feeling for these types of collectibles, these cute little plushy dolls. There is a nostalgic for this idea that you can be cute and mischievous. Dennis the Menace, if you don't know who that is, look Dennis the Menace up. That idea and bringing that into adulthood when frankly, that is frowned upon. As an adult in the adult workplace, it is not a good thing to be mischievous and break your, heirloom vase. You have to be responsible. You have to be steadfast. You have to do your work. You have to be, you have to do all the things you have to do. And frankly, there are days that it's hard and there are days that it's a lot. And the idea that you can have something that reminds you of that whimsical time in your life and adding that blind buy to it so you get this surprise and you get this excitement out of it at a reasonable price point. Honestly, you can't put a price on all of that. If it makes somebody's day to be able to do that, then of course it's going to be something that's incredibly popular. The phenomenon, I think, is, like I said, a culmination of all the things we talked about. And I really do think that this is something that's the beginning of something, not the end of it. I don't know if there'll be another Labubu phenomenon. Like, I don't know if there'll be another character that suddenly becomes, the next Labubu. But I do think there will be more of these mergings of whimsical, nostalgic types of elements in fashion. I mean, we've seen it in other ways where we've started to, where, like, for example, the balloon shoes, those were whimsical. Nobody was really wearing them. And although I looked at them and was like, okay, that's ridiculous. I admit, was like, well, that's kind of fun that someone came up with that. That's cute. We've seen the Mr. Men and Ms. Little bag charms, which I have, and I posted about them. They sold out at Nordstrom. They were super popular. And if you're not aware of the Little Miss and Little Mister series, those were books when I was a kid. Go ahead and look those up because adults are the ones that are buying those little charms and they were super popular. They're actually, I think, a French brand, and I'll put up the information, and they were at Nordstrom and they sold out. They were at Saks too, and they're still around. I'll put links down below, but those are childhood nostalgic memories that are being represented as an adult. There are brands that do things with Little Men and Little Miss, like designs on sweaters. There's Snoopy. There's a bunch of different brands that use the Peanuts characters on clothing, and they always do extremely well. And I've really only seen that in the last 2 years, but I think we're going to see more of it. And I have to tell you guys, there was I think it was a Little Mister sweater that I saw. I think it was last year. And I thought about buying it because I used to love the Little Mister series. And it sold out. It was gone. So, and I have I have a Snoopy sweatshirt that I got from, I can't remember where I bought it, but it wasn't inexpensive. It was expensive. So then we're not talking you go to Target or you go to Walmart and it's cute, kind of kitschy kind of clothes. No, I'm talking cashmere. I'm talking luxury items with childhood characters. So I think if I had been paying more attention, I might have seen this Labubu trend coming. I don't think I would have seen Labubu specifically because I didn't know what a Labubu was, but I think I would have been less surprised, actually, because I had been seeing this, this throwback, this whimsical nature to fashion over the last couple years. And I'm here for the whimsical nature of it. I think whimsy is a good thing. I think it is important to connect every once in a while with something fun and silly and, dance in your kitchen type of thing. You can't always take yourself too seriously. It is exhausting. I know. I did it for 30 years. My job was a very serious job and it was very fulfilling, and I have nothing negative to say about it. But I would also say if you lose that sense of whimsy, if you lose that sense of childhood wonder, I think it's unfortunate. So I feel like, although I personally don't understand the appeal of a Labubu, just the particular Labubu, I understand the idea behind it, and I'm here for it. So I am looking forward to whatever comes next. Hopefully it will be something that I can afford, because the Louis Vuitton little flower doll is a little too pricey for me at this point. But I will say that I plan on like being more deliberately whimsical in the things that I do and the fashion that I wear going forward, because life is short. Why not? So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this whole Labubu phenomenon, and whether you think this is something that is kind of the beginning of a trend, or if this is going to be a one and done. And if you have a Labubu, I'd love to hear about your experience with it, because I don't personally know anyone who has one. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. So thanks so much for joining me today, guys. I really do appreciate it. And I hope to see you in another video really soon. Bye.